Chapter 11. OG. A pair of loud snaps heralded a Wednesday with intense blue skies, fluffy clouds, and the white-hot glare of a relentless sun. Hollis opened his eyes and frowned at the reoccurrence of the noise. Letta bolted awake. Hollis? Algie stirred and interrupted her. I'm thirsty, Hollis. I want a drink. Hollis stared at the little boy, whose cracked, white-flecked lips stuck together in places. A gray gook had gathered in the corners of his mouth. Mine are probably like that too. They feel all gummy. Was that another one of those cracking sounds? Letta asked. Hollis nodded. Two. I don't like that, Letta said, rubbing her neck and twisting her back. I want to know what it is. She turned to check on G, who was lying under her tent with her eyes closed. She doesn't look good. She's fine, Hollis hissed. Keep your voice down. She's just sleeping. Letta turned away. Where is everybody, Letta? Algie asked. What's taken so long? I don't know, Algie. I wish people would get here, or Jonas. We're dying of thirst and we can't do a thing. If someone doesn't come do something soon, we'll be dead. I gotta do something. I feel dead already. I could swim for help, Hollis said. Yeah, like that worked before. You don't know anything, Letta. I got really far the last time. He stared at the water. Truth be told, he really didn't want to go into that mess again. Letta's face crumpled and tears ran down her cheeks. Hollis stared at her in surprise. You need to stay here, she said. You can't leave me with both Algie and G to take care of. You can't. Hollis felt ashamed. I was just going for help. I wouldn't leave for good. Letta wiped her eyes, a sudden expression of hope in them. Maybe that's where Jonas is, getting us help. He saved those people, and now he's going to save us. Hollis sat down on the roof with a thump. Letta was probably right. Jonas was the hero in this family. Why was he even trying? He pulled his knees up to his chest, laid his forehead on them, and retreated into himself. He withdrew so much that he didn't hear the boat putting down Flood Street about 20 minutes later, until it was almost to them. All around, stranded people stirred and called out. Although it reduced its speed as though in response, the boat, a police cruiser, was stopping for no one. Two officers piloted it, but it was already overloaded with other people. Letta grabbed a light blue pillowcase and waved it as the prow drew parallel with the Joseph's house. The cruiser slowed and Hollis lifted his head. We're only taking sick or injured, the pilot called. Hollis stood up. My grandmother's got diabetes. She's really sick. The man spoke to the other deputy before giving a reply. Okay, we'll see what we can do. The three children watched hopefully as the boat angled toward them and stopped with a soft bump against the eaves of the house. An officer climbed out, handing a small bottle of water to each child. The bottles remained unopened, as everyone watched the man lean down to awaken G. G didn't move. Hollis heard Letta give a little moan. The policeman sat down on the sloping roof and lifted G's shoulders into his lap. We should try to get some water in her, he said, holding the last bottle. Letta squatted on one side of G, holding on to Algie, and Hollis stood on the other. Everyone nodded. How long has she been like this? The man asked. Letta shook her head. Her brow furrowed. We were letting her sleep. We wanted her to rest. We don't know, Hollis said. The man opened the bottle. Ordinarily, I wouldn't do this because it might choke her, but she's in a bad way. We'd have a better chance of moving her for help if she's less dehydrated, so I'm going to take the risk. He dribbled water into G's mouth, but it drained out again. Hollis bit his lip. Then G's throat moved, and she swallowed. Hollis's knees gave way, and he collapsed onto the shingles. Letta hugged Algie and told him G would be okay. Hollis saw the policeman glance at her, an uncertain look on his face, but he continued to feed G the rest of the water, one tiny dribble at a time. I think that's all we should give her right now, he said at last. Hollis glanced at his hand, remembering he still had a bottle of his own. He opened it and chugged the contents down in several greedy swallows. Wiping his mouth, he noticed Algie wrestling with his bottle cap and motioned him over. Thanks, Algie croaked as Hollis handed the bottle back to him. The other policeman joined the first and helped him pick G up and carry her to the boat. The crowd made room and they laid her on the boat's floor. Beyond swallowing, G hadn't moved or spoken. Hollis's eyes wandered over the small craft which sat low in the water, so low that if a wave came along, water would get into the boat. The people had their eyes closed or pained expressions on their faces. Hollis noticed a familiar face amongst the strangers. "Miss Jackson!" Hollis yelled, waving at the woman who sat leaning against the side of the boat, her eyes closed and blood on her face. Beside her, a man with blood on his shirt and arm lifted his hand. "She can't hear you, son," he called, as Letta and Algie joined Hollis at the edge of the roof. "She got a bad bang on the head when our roof caved in, and these fellers gave her something that knocked her out. I'm her husband, Marvin. Is this your grandma?" Hollis nodded. "Her name's G." "Ah, yeah," Marvin said. "I've heard Aletha talk about G." The first policeman made his way back to them. His expression was grim. "I don't like leaving you kids alone, so we're going to go with this load, then we're going to get back here fast." "Thanks, mister," Letta said. "We'll be okay. We got neighbors." She turned and waved to the Josephs' house. Everyone in the area had their eyes on the Williams' house, wondering if the boat would take them away. Mr. Joseph waved back. "Watch out for those kids, will you?" the policeman called. "We'll try," Mr. Joseph yelled, "but it's not like that'll be easy." He gestured at the neighborhood. "Y'all coming back?" "We'll try." Mr. Joseph threw his hands up in frustration. The men prepared to leave. "Don't you worry, boy," Marvin called out as the boat started. "I'll take care of them both. Gonna go to Baton Rouge. Look for us at a hospital out there." Hollis nodded. First Dad, then Mom, then Jonas, now G. Everyone is disappearing.